as you well know, Counselor Deanna Troi from Star Trek: The Next Generation and many other roles. Welcome, Marina Sirtis.
I'm not used to sitting down when I do a Q&A. I'm usually like running around the stage. But I don't usually have someone interviewing me. So this is new and different.
Well, we'll just...
His questions better be good, right? I'll tell you if they're not, by the way.
All right. Star Trek has been such a part of your life for such a long time.
No.
Yeah,
Actually, for a lot of my life, yeah.
Tell me about where you were, what you were doing, what you imagined your career would be back before Star Trek kind of came in and took over.
Okay, well, I went to drama school in England. I didn't go to college. I went to drama school. Back in those days, actually, college and further education was free in my country. And then New Labour came along, and all those people who went to school for free that are my age, now they're making people pay for college like they do here. But it's still cheaper to go to school in England than it is to go to school here. So people with kids, look into an English university, okay? No, honestly, much cheaper. 3-year degree, post-grad 4 years, you're done in 4 years as opposed to 6. They just want to make, it's just part of the American culture of making you pay more money. So when I left drama school, I thought I was going to be the next great classical theatre actress. I thought I was going to be Judi Dench. And, darker, thinner version of Judi Dench. But I found that because of the way I look, and we're talking, back in the Middle Ages now, not a lot of English, you don't look at me and think English. Right, so I was playing a lot of ethnic parts, and those parts tend not to be the leading part. And so I was always playing a lot of supporting roles and various ethnicities. And so I had a friend who said, you should go to America. And so I came to the States in November of '86 and got cast on Star Trek in May of '87. So I literally got off the boat and landed the job. And when I left drama school, I didn't know anything about Star Trek. I have to be honest, I'd only ever seen one show, because whenever I turned the TV on or I stopped at a Star Trek episode, it was the one with the flower people. Not a great indication of the quality of that show. It was a rubbish episode. It really was bad. And I just kept watching. Really, they didn't actually get it that in like a year, this was going to look so dated. Because once flower power was over, this was done, Anyway, so I wasn't a big fan of the show, but hey, I had a contract that said I was going to do at least a year on this show, which was going to be the longest job I ever had on television, at a year. So the next 6 years and the 4 movies really were a bonus. I had no concept of fandom. I had no concept of the conventions. I had no idea. I had no clue. So it was a bit of a culture shock, but I kind of took to it like a duck to water. And I am the convention queen now. But you don't have to curtsy when you meet me.
Talk about when that call came and the casting process. Was Deanna Troi the role you were originally up for?
No, I was up for Tasha Yar, and Denise was up for Deanna, because the character description, Deanna was supposed to be blonde and Tasha was supposed to be dark. And that was all. They looked at the pictures and they went, okay, blah, blah. And then after 3 auditions, they switched us over. So they said they sensed an empathy in me that the character needed. What they actually sensed in me was sheer terror. And I remember I was on a cruise once, a Star Trek cruise. Can you imagine?
You can't get away.
The only escape is over the side, really. And I was on a Star Trek cruise with Gene Roddenberry, and we did a panel, and someone asked him, who has changed the most since the show started? And without blinking, he said, Marina. And I was surprised. And he said, oh gosh, when we met Marina, she was this little English, shy, retiring little wallflower. And I was like, there must be another Marina on the show that I don't know about. Never been called shy, retiring, or a wallflower in my life. Loud, obnoxious bitch, more like. That's more, I mean, I'm so mouthy, I was put on the domestic terrorist list. No, this is true, by a TSA agent that I mouthed off to. I had to go on Entertainment Tonight to get off the list. Mind you, when I went on Entertainment Tonight, I realised that if I went on as Marina, no one would have any sympathy for me, so I went on as Deanna Troi. And when it was Debbie Matenopoulos, who, you know, we have a connection because we're both of Greek heritage, and Debbie was trying to wind me up and get me to say something outrageous because she knows me, but I wasn't going to do it. And so when she said to me, now, how does this make you feel? And I said, well, Debbie, you know, all I have is my good name, and they've taken that away from me. Tear. That was it. And a week later, I got the letter from the TSA saying it was a case of mistaken identity. Yeah, right. Anyway, so that's me, really. And so when Gene said that, I was very surprised. But I realised that it was because I was so nervous. The real Marina didn't come out. Thank the Lord. Because if they'd met the real Marina, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I believe that with all my soul. I really do.
Do you feel like you would have been a better fit with your own personality for that character? Security
for Deanna?
officer?
Oh, for security officer, would have been better, yeah. Because, you know, I might be small, but you look at me and you're like, she can kick some ass, right? So, I'm small but power-packed. And I actually would have liked to, I mean, I love Deanna Troi. I really did love her because she actually changed me a little bit because I had to kind of, that's all gone now, by the way, now I'm not playing her anymore. But when I was playing her for 7 years, her calmness and stuff did have a bit of an effect on me, having to be that way for so many hours in the day. But she was a challenge because really, I had to keep Marina out of the character. There could be no Marina in Deanna because we're polar opposites. And so for 7 years, it wasn't a struggle because I kind of got used to it, but I did have to kind of second guess myself sometimes and go, okay, it's not what would Marina do, it's what would Deanna do. And so that was always an issue for me. But if I had played Tasha, I could have been a bit more like Marina.
Talk about the evolution of the character. I know from watching the show, in the first season really, there's not a whole lot for your character to do, but I think that
you noticed. Well, you know, when I signed my contract, it said all shows produced, which basically means you're going to be in every episode. And then after we did the pilot, they went, we're going to give you 10 out of 13. And then when the second 13 came along, they said, we're going to give you 7 out of the next 13. So I knew something was wrong, right? I knew the characters, that the writers were a bit flummoxed. They had created this character, but they didn't really know what to do with her. Because I would get, sometimes a director would come up to me and say, look, you know, you didn't have very much in next week's episode, so I've had them write you out. Thank you. Yeah. Which means I don't get paid. Thank you, right? Because if you're on the bridge when he says that, you're going to know he's lying, you're going to know, you know, your character would sense his duplicity or whatever. So, and then we wouldn't have a storyline, so you're not in the episode. So I was a little insecure all that first season. I just kept waiting for the shoe to drop and for them to say, by the way, you're fired, you know. And I knew it wasn't because they didn't think I was a good actress, I knew it was because they really didn't know what to do with the character. Well, as it transpired, at the end of the first season, I'm the only one left out of the girls, which was kind of ironic, you know. And at Jonathan and Jeannie's wedding, which happened in the first season hiatus. Now, y'all know that y'all, listen to me, I'm in the South, y'all, all y'all know. All y'all, which is my favourite phrase in the American language. What, all y'all?
All y'all.
I love all y'all. It's the plural of y'all, right? John, you know he's married to Jeannie Francis, Laura, right? Okay. So we're at like Riker and Laura's wedding, and Jean took me aside and said, I want to tell you something, and I'm like, here it comes, I'm not coming back next year. And he said, the first episode of the new season is a Troi episode. And I just burst into tears. Because after all the insecurity of that first year, to think that it was the loss. Remember that when I had that child? When I was like immaculately concepted. And me and the Virgin Mary. Takes all the fun out of it, though, I have to say. Are there children in the audience? Oh, too young to understand. Okay, good. But I was so happy that they trusted me. They trusted me because the other thing was we had a writer's strike in that hiatus. So we'd been off for 6 months. And to think that they trusted me enough to give me the first episode when we came back was so huge for me. I couldn't even explain it. But because then, we got Diana Muldaur for a year and she was a different generation to me, I suddenly became all things to all men, and that was when my part really grew. Yeah.
The cast. I've seen so much of getting the cast back together with the different anniversaries and DVD, Blu-ray releases and stuff. Talk about what it was like to be on that set with those folks. I mean, because you got a lot of, amazing actors, but a lot of people coming together at a pretty early stage in their career, and you guys all...
Except Patrick Stewart, who's very old.
For a lot of the others.
All right, yeah.
To be family for that long.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether it was serendipity or whether they actually planned it. I'm pretty sure it was just serendipity because producers don't really care if the actors like each other or not. They don't care, it's not part of their casting process. But I remember sitting in the makeup trailer before we even started filming, and we were doing the makeup and hair tests. And I still ended up looking like that on Encounter at Farpoint. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sitting there getting my hair and makeup done, and this whirlwind called Jonathan Frakes comes into the makeup trailer, and he is a force of nature. There's no other way to describe him. He changes the energy in the room as soon as he walks into the room. He's amazing, and I knew from that moment this was going to be a lot of fun. And then we started acting together, and to be honest, Old Baldy, oh, excuse me. Sorry. Sir Old Baldy. He was a bit up his own bum when we started, I have to be honest. He was very serious, it was all about the work, But we kind of beat that out of him pretty fast. But we had a director in the first season, quite early, who directed 2 episodes, and he refused to ever come back because we were too rowdy. So Rick Berman calls us into, actually very early, because Denise was still on the show, and he called us into Tasha's quarters and reamed us all a new one. However, it was water off a duck's back, really. We didn't care what they thought. We were there to have fun. And we laughed and laughed and laughed for 7 years, non-stop. And I can tell you all now, because he's put it out himself, but we were all at Patrick's wedding last weekend. And we were all really pissed off that they separated us for dinner. We all want to be together all the time. I mean, if we go to a party, at the end of the evening, we're sitting in a little group with our back to everybody else. We just enjoy each other so much. And people that know us know this. They've seen us together. They just go, it's unbelievable that you guys still get along after 26 years or whatever it is now. I know you're thinking, can't possibly be, it's way too young. But anyway, I was 12 when we started. I was a very old-looking 12 with huge boobs. But for a 12-year-old. Anyway, we just love each other. We still love each other. And I can say this, and I'll tell you the truth. We are the only cast of all the Star Trek casts where the whole cast loves each other. The whole cast. There are in the other shows, there are groups of actors who are friends, but we are the only cast where everybody was best friends. and there will never be a book. You know there's never going to be a book because publishers don't want to hear, we loved each other. They want to hear who did this to who and who was effing who and all that stuff. And that wasn't happening on our show. Maybe that's why we all still get along, because there was no hanky-panky with the regular cast. Guest stars were fair game. And I'll be honest, hand up in the air, I went through a few that first season before I met my husband. No names. But one of them was on Prison Break. Oh!
Was there a favorite episode that you have out of the
Notice how you changed the subject.
You said no names.
No names, no, not using names, no. What did you say?
A favorite episode.
Favorite episode, okay. My favorite episode, is an episode actually that I'm not in very much, which is Measure of a Man. Do you remember that? When they put Data on trial. I thought that was a perfect Star Trek episode, despite the fact that I wasn't in it very much. For the ones that I'm in, I've got a few. I mean, Fistful of Datas, hysterical, love that. Love Fistful of Datas, but being English, I had never held a gun before. And Michael Dorn had to show me how to hold a gun. And also, I love the scenes in the prison where I was Durango. And I love the fact that I was like of indeterminate sex as well. That was kind of cool. And I was smoking that cheroot, because I do smoke. And so it was great that I got to smoke at work, you know. So I was trying to blow smoke rings in the scene, which I can't do, by the way. And I remember at the end of the scene, the first time we did a take, Michael Dorn came up to me and he said, "Don't be funny. This is my episode." And I'm like, really? It's called A Fistful of Datas, Dorn. Not a fistful of wharfs, okay? But we always had a lot of fun. Always did, yeah. But that, I think, Fistful of Datas, what else? Face of the Enemy, because it was a real turning point for my character. They finally went, oh, she can be strong, you know? That was pretty cool. Although I have to say, I do not get Romulans at all. What is it with the Romulans? Did the Romulan Romulan hairdressers, did they just learn one hairstyle at beauty school?
They're Roman.
And what is it with the clothes, with the shoulders? I mean, did Linda Evans have a garage sale? We just went up and bought all her shoulder pads. And the galoshes inside where it's not raining. I never got the Romulans. I just call them, it's the bad hair, bad clothes planet now for me.
What was your first, not having any concept of the Star Trek fandom and of the original show, how far into it in that first season were you when you realized, oh my goodness, we're part of something that people are really excited about and kind of nuts about?
Well, it wasn't in the first season. Although I did start doing conventions because Majel, who also knew that, you know, I was in an iffy position that first season, and she played my mom. So, you know, she's like, oh my God, if she loses her job, I lose a job, right? So she actually, before we even went on the air, it was in August of '87, I get a call, and mate, it's a Saturday, and mate, what are you doing? And I said, nothing. She said, okay, get yourself to the Ambassador Hotel, which was the hotel that Bobby Kennedy was shot in. Which isn't there anymore, unfortunately. But she said, get yourself to the Ambassador Hotel. I'm doing a convention. I'm going to introduce you to the fans. And I went, okay. So I went down there, and really, they couldn't care less about me. They'd never seen the show. It hadn't come on yet. They were pissed that we were trying to take their idol's place. You know, they were like, how dare you try and take the place of Kirk and Spock and all those people, right? And even when we were doing press, the question we got asked the most by these idiot reporters was, who's the new...
It wasn't me.
It wasn't him, okay. Who's the new Spock? Right, who's the new Spock? And we're like, we don't have a Spock. But who's the equivalent of Spock? We're like, we don't really have an equivalent of Spock. And they didn't want to hear that. And then, you know, for a lot of time, I would go to conventions sometimes, and there'd be like 30 people there. hostile people, not even like friendly people. So it really wasn't until like the second year, going into the third year, that the fans really kind of took to it. And I have to be honest, there were some stinky episodes that first season, which we don't talk about. We pretend they never happened, erase. The menopause is good for that. You forget a lot of shit you don't remember. Okay, you're all looking at me. All you young girls, you'll remember this in 30 years' time. When you're standing in the middle of your living room going in circles, going, why did I come in here? You're going to remember this conversation. You say, Marina Sirtis, God rest her soul, told me this was going to happen.
That's the thing now that I think we all kind of take for granted, is that the sci-fi franchises just live on and continue to evolve, and now there's a new Star Trek. And what are your thoughts on where it's going? And I mean, eventually there's going to be the next generation of the next generation, or some iteration of it.
Maybe. You know, I can't knock JJ's movie. I can't. It's brought a whole new audience to Star Trek that would never have gone to a Star Trek movie before, just because JJ Abrams is involved. So you have to kind of go, God bless. It's fantastic. It's keeping the franchise alive. It's bringing young kids into the franchise. It's all good. But when I watch Jon Stewart and I see JJ on Jon Stewart, did you all see this? No. Okay. You don't watch Jon Stewart. I thought Ohio... Isn't Ohio a blue state? It's a purple state. I'm leaving, all right. I try not to talk to Republicans if I can help it. Anyway, JJ was on Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart, obviously, he'd come on to talk about the new movie, and he said, so, you know, were you a fan of Star Trek? And JJ said, no. I never watched it, I never liked it. When I did watch it, I thought it was too philosophical. You know, when I was in college, all my friends watched it. When I started writing, all the other writers watched it. But he said, I just don't get it, I never got it. And Jon Stewart, God bless him, said, I'm sorry, JJ, I didn't hear anything after you said you didn't like Star Trek. So, you know, as someone who's involved in it, you know, you get a little hurt. But on the other hand, listen, he was me. I had never seen the original show, and the one that I had seen was rubbish. So, you know, he's coming from it, kind of from the same place that I was coming from it as well. But, you kind of think that maybe they'd give it to someone who liked it. You know, I don't know. But, you know, he's done a great job. They're not my cup of tea, I have to be honest. Bit too loud now, too much shooting up. You know, they're more Kirk, aren't they? Because, you know, I work with the diplomat. I work with Obama, you know, on my ship. I didn't work with Bush on the original Enterprise, which is kind of an analogy that works, right? Let's go kill him. Let's go talk to him. Yeah.
But there is a philosophical nature to it that I think is lost, not only in the new Star Trek, but in a lot of shows. I mean, there's a weight to it. That's one of the reasons that they hold up, is because there is, you sit down and you watch it with your kids or whatever, and there's a weight to it.
Well, I always used to say, Star Trek and the Weather Channel was the only two things that the whole family could sit and watch together. Because even the news now, you can't, the kids, you have to kind of go cover their eyes because of the stuff they show on the news. So that's a real point of pride for us, that so many people come up to us now that we've been around for so long and say, you know, this used to be our family time when we would watch the show together. It was our family time, you know, and now my mom and dad are gone or whatever, but whenever I watch the show, it brings back such great memories. You know, I'm an actress. Listen, I'm just an actress. My method of acting is not very deep. It's learn your lines, hit your mark, and don't bump into the furniture. That's it, right? And so to be involved in something that has had such an effect on people's lives was nothing. This was nothing that I ever imagined would happen in my career. So I can't even begin to count how many people have said to me they became either a counselor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist because of me. The people that come up to LeVar and say, I went into engineering or I went into science because of you. It blows our minds. It humbles us to like this big. It is one of the most amazing things about being involved in the franchise. It's one of the greatest things.
Are there a lot of people that come up to Brent and say, I bought an Android phone because of that?
Well, you know... Okay. Little tip. Don't piss Marina off. Try not to be funnier than me. Okay. That's very good, actually. I'm going to have to remember that. I'm going to steal that, actually, from you. But, you know, with Data, it was different because everybody loves Data. It's like everybody loves Raymond, you know. Everybody loves Data. He is such an exceptional actor, and he worked his A off for this part. Listen, after a few, you know, when you first start on a show, you get the first season of script, you know, you get the scripts and you look through the script desperately. Oh my God, I'm hardly in this one. Oh my goodness. And you're really upset because you want more lines, you know. Come to like 4th, 5th season, you're like, oh Lordy, I'm in every day this week. I never stopped talking. Oh, really? Oh, I wanted to get my nails done, you know. So it changes, it really does change. And so from the beginning, when you always arrive on the set word perfect, come to, like I said, later on in the series, and you're pretty much thinking, I'll learn my lines while they're lighting it, you know. I'll have a half an hour or an hour while they're lighting that first scene in the morning. Brent Spiner came to work every day for 7 years, word perfect. Word perfect. And he had the hardest lines to say. He and Geordie had all that techno-babble. You know, I had one episode that I had techno-babble in, and there was one line, and it's apart from Captain, he's hiding something. This is the only line I remember from the whole thing, and it was from Face the Enemy. And I said, that's impossible. The Romulans use an artificial quantum singularity as their power source. But I said it to Data and Geordie like they didn't know this about the Romulans. They obviously missed that class. But I remember that line because it took me so long to learn it, and it's in there forever. But Brent and LeVar, and LeVar would talk so fast with all that techno-babble. So, very impressive to me. Excuse me? If you're going to heckle, honey, enunciate. There we go, thank you.
I know you're busy right now doing NCIS. I know there's a lot of people that are excited about that. And
not as excited as me, let me tell you. I'm very excited to be on NCIS.
You're expected to come in the upcoming season?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've watched it. If you haven't watched it, I'm back on episode 2 of the new season, which is... Oh, actually, it's October 1st. And hashtag Imzadi night. Because I'm on NCIS at 8 o'clock, and my Imzadi, Jonathan Frakes, has directed the NCIS LA that comes on right after it. So that's pretty awesome. I honestly thought that good parts were done for me unless it was an independent movie. I do a lot of independent movies because studio pictures don't hire any women over 40, right? So I'm pretty much on my way to the glue factory in Hollywood until I get a call. And I know I was second choice because I got the call the day before they started shooting. But I didn't care. And I know who was first choice, and I'm just thrilled to be considered on the same list as this person, right? So I get the call the day before, and I'm working the very next morning, and I have 6 pages of dialogue to learn, and I only get the script at 5:30 in the afternoon. And then I have to drive home for an hour and a half. So I started looking at my lines at 7 o'clock that night, because I thought, I am not going on the #1 show in America and not know my lines, right? And They were fantastic. After my TNG cast, this is the best cast I've ever worked with. Mark Harmon is a doll. A doll. I mean, I was sitting getting made up one day, and I know you don't think I wore a lot of makeup, people who saw that, because I had someone come up and say, you look like gold in my ear. Exactly. I don't look like gold in my ear in the next episode, by the way. But because I'm the head of Mossad, you all know what Mossad is? Yeah, okay. Because I'm the head of Mossad, the gold in my ear thing kind of fit. But anyway, I was sitting in the makeup trailer and Mark Harmon came in and he said, what do you want for breakfast? And I said, you can't get me breakfast. You're the star of the show. Send a minion. And he's like, no, I'm going to get breakfast. What would you like? So he walked out of the trailer. I turned to the girls and I said, you know what? I love Patrick Stewart with all my heart. But if I had waited for him to feed me, I would have died of effing starvation. So he's an awesome guy, and really easy on the eye. And in my second episode, I just got to work with Michael Weatherly. Darn. I know. Gorgeous. So if I look a bit dreamy in that episode, you know why. But anyway, it's great. I want y'all to, when you see it on October 1st, Imzadi night, right? I want you to campaign to get me back more. Because Cody's left now. I tried to talk her out of it, but you know, I'm like her mom. She's not going to listen to her mom. I'm like probably the same age as her mom, so she paid no attention to me at all, just like I did when I was her age. But if I want to go back more, and they did have a great storyline for me and her lined up, and now she's gone. That ain't going to happen, obviously. So we need to get me back, like maybe to take her place every week. That would be kind of cool, right? So I'm relying on you because you don't realise you have the power. It's all about you watching TV. It's all about you. The actors have no power. The actors, it's just that we're just what's on in between the commercials, which is what is the most important thing on TV, is the commercials, right? So we're just like filler in between the commercials. So, but because you are the people who are watching, you have the power. Like, there are so many shows that we're going to get cancelled and we're not because the audience, you know. So I would like to be on NCIS every week, please. Thank you.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who have questions, so we'll take a couple questions here from the audience. We've got a mic right there.
Hi, my name is Bill.
Hey, Bill.
I have heard in other Q&A sessions that a lot of the cast had horrible experiences with Data's cat. Did you ever have any?
I'm an animal lover. So, you know. In fact, I was at a convention recently and a baby and a puppy came towards me at the same time. I said to the mum, sorry, but I've got to go for the dog. Yeah, sorry. But I didn't have a problem with Data's cat at all. And probably Gates didn't either, because she's a big cat lover. But I think they're just, you know, trying to be funny. Because we had two Data's cats. We had the docile cat and we had the frisky cat, depending on what the scene needed. Yeah. But you can't really teach a cat how to act. That is an issue with cats. You can train a dog, you can't really train a cat. They're too ornery. That's another American word that I like. Ornery. Thank you, Bill. You're a bit old for Power Rangers, aren't you?
You're never too old.
Okay. All right. So you're going to beat the Steelers on Monday night?
Oh, absolutely.
You better, bloody better. Hate the Steelers. Hate the Steelers. But what do I know? I'm a Jets fan.
I'll give them my word.
Did y'all see the game last on Thursday? Geno Smith was great passing the ball to the Patriots. Yes, sir.
All right, my name's Adam.
Hello, Adam.
Okay, and do you ever get ribbing for your driving on the Enterprise? Generations, Nemesis, and then okay, you can yell at me, but I've seen Into Darkness. A friend of mine says, it's another Troi driving the ship.
Listen, I just have one thing to say. In Generations, that planet just came out of nowhere. And in Nemesis, I was acting under orders. Like a good Nazi. I was following orders, right? So, I take no responsibility for what happened in Nemesis. It just really does tick me off, though, because, they wouldn't have... Of course, a man couldn't be driving when the Enterprise crashes, God forbid. It has to be a girl driving the Enterprise when it crashes. And if you think about the history of who drove the Enterprise, it really is even more annoying. Because the first guy to drive was the blind dude. Then the teenager. Then pretty much any chick in red who happened to be passing. Well, here are the keys, drive the ship, and while you're down there, be nice to Data. And never a scratch on it until Troi got to drive. But the E was much better. The E. It looked like a big Toyota. Yeah. It did, didn't it? It's like the Porsches now. I have a very old Porsche. It's 28 years old. The old, one with the whale tail convertible. You know the one. Right. Well, new ones to me look like Toyotas. Don't they? They don't have character like the old ones do. They're all jelly beans. I have a metal car. Yes, my car is metal. I have demolished many other cars. Yes, sir.
I would have done the same thing.
What's that?
Thank you. Crash the ship.
Crash the ship? You would? Okay, bless your heart. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name's Chris.
Hey, Chris.
You brought up your hair for Farpoint. If you had to pick, what was your favorite and least favorite hairstyles you had throughout the shows?
Okay, my least favorite was actually in Encounter at Farpoint. That was my real hair. That exploded Brillo pad on my head is my real hair. This is my real hair, destroyed to death to make it straighter, right? I wasn't crazy about the bun, I have to be honest, old bun head. Because Denise is taller than me, so they would always put me in front of her in photographs, and my bun would always cast a shadow on her face. So she was not a happy camper. My favourite, I think the best I ever looked on screen was in Generations. I thought that hair was the best.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now y'all have to go back and watch it.
Hi, I'm Ken. As a nearly lifelong fan of all of the series, but particularly yours and the original, I have to ask you, was Majel Roddenberry as much of a hoot in person as the character Loxana was?
Okay, so bear in mind that she's my mom, and we actually shot Haven as episode 3, although it wasn't shown as episode 3. And by this time, we were pretty much established as a pretty wild bunch, right? And then we hear the boss's wife is coming on the show. So we were like, okay, maybe for one episode we have to be good and professional. And then she was on the set for about 10 minutes and we realised she was nuttier than the rest of us put together. And she fit right in. And the great thing about her when she was on the show was that was when we saw Gene the most. Because he would come and sit on the set and just watch her adoringly. It was so sweet, really was wonderful. My husband never even watches me when I'm on television. Mind you, I don't go see him play anymore, so. After 25 years, I've heard all the songs, really. My husband's a musician, he plays in tribute bands. Actually, it's not true, I do go and see him sometimes. If he's playing locally, I'll go and see him. And the band that plays the most, which I hate, is the Steely Dan tribute band. I hate Steely Dan. I really hate Steely Dan. And after every gig, I'm like, honey, you were great. I hate that effing music. But there was this wonderful love that, it really did. He just watched her with just pride and adoration. It was a lovely thing to see. But yeah, she was nuts.
And for the computer voice, did you hear her voice during shooting, or was that added in post-production?
It's added after. Yeah, added after.
Sorry if I'm stuttering. Okay, first of all, sorry for interrupting.
Excuse me, 1 second.
Okay, first of all, sorry for interrupting the panel.
It's my husband. Wait a second.
Oh.
Hello. Hello? Hello?
Oh dear.
I'm in the middle of my panel, baby. He said hello. Hi. I said hello back. I'll call you back. Bye.
Okay, well, first of all...
No, you know why? I have to say, sorry, lovely. I have to say this. He doesn't trust me as far as he can throw me. So if I don't answer the phone, he has his own special ring, so I know that it's him. He thinks I'm up to no good. So, yes, love.
Okay, first of all, I'm sorry for interrupting the panel earlier by quoting multimodal reflection sorting, but what I was wondering was, what was it like working on Gargoyles? Because I saw a few episodes of it and it was actually pretty good.
It was good. It was good. I think it was Gargoyles was an animated series that I did for Disney. We were told we couldn't call it a cartoon because there were no ducks or mice in it, so we had to call it an animated series. They create, Greg Wiseman, genius, who created the whole thing. Disney didn't know what to do with it. It was way beyond. It was way ahead of its time. It was kind of an adult animated series, and because Disney's all about the kids, they really didn't know what to do with it, and so that's why we got cancelled. But it was a lot of fun to do. I actually, again, I was auditioning for a totally different part. Totally different part. You think I'd be good at this by now? Totally different part, and I was auditioning. Now this is weird because I'm moving the stand, but the microphone's staying in the same place. So I was auditioning for Elisa when I went in. Yes, exactly. And so after the audition, Greg said, and Jamie, the director, they said, there's another part that we think you'll be better for. Excuse me, where are you going? Where are you going?
Sorry, something came up.
Is it important?
Yeah, my house is
on fire.
Broken into.
Oh shit, go! Run like the wind!
Everyone in his house.
I won't yell at you then. Okay. So they said there's another part, but we don't have the dialogue with us today. Would you come back tomorrow? So I went back the next day and they gave me the Demona dialogue and I did the Demona and got the part, obviously. And I said to them, a little way into the series, so how many people did you read for Demona? And they said, you were the first one in. I said, yeah, and after me? He said, you were the first one in. And that was it. And I was like, okay, wait a second. She was an evil cow. So it's kind of a double-edged compliment, really, isn't it? It's like, you were the only one we read, you got it perfect, we hired you, you're an evil cow. I mean, really. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, sweetheart. Yes, dear.
Hello, my name is Landon.
Oh, hang on. It's very low, this dress. I keep having to check that I'm not flashing anybody. You love me, don't you?
See, why you gotta put me on the spot?
No, you know why? Because the brothers love me. I don't know what it is. I don't know what... The brothers absolutely love Troy. You do, don't you? Come on, be honest.
I think he's blushing.
I think, yeah.
I'm trying not to blush.
Try not to blush. Because every time Michael Dorn comes across one of your people, they're like, that Deanna Troi. What is she like, really? What is she like? And he's like, she's mean as a snake. And I'm like, no, she's not. She's fine.
Giggity.
Okay. I know you've got to... Sorry to embarrass you like that.
No, it's fine.
But, you take your life in your hands when you come up to the microphone.
I'm used to it anyway, so
Okay.
no worries. But since you were talking about voice acting, and she did, whoever was here earlier, she did ask about the voice acting process. Now, when you're doing the transition from your acting into voice acting, with that in mind, how was it like when you did the Young Justice role as well? Too?
Okay, now this is how much I know about animation, right? Okay. I played Queen Bee on Young Justice. Right. Okay, thank you. I thought she was a bee. She's not a bee. She's a person. But it said Queen Bee. I thought, should I do a zzz kind of voice? No. Just be normal. Okay. But you know, I have to say, again, it's Greg and Jamie. These are the only people who hire me to do voiceovers, period. Because I did Gargoyles for them, I did Young Justice for them. Actually, Greg called me, he couldn't call me directly because when you're hiring somebody or trying to hire somebody, you have to go through their agent. So I got a call from my voiceover agent saying, you have a voiceover audition like tomorrow, and I couldn't make it for some reason or other, so I didn't go in. And to be honest, I'm not really that bothered when I miss a voiceover audition because they don't pay that well, and I don't enjoy it as much as proper acting, like, you know, on-screen acting. So I didn't think twice until I saw Greg at a convention. And he said, oh, I'm really sad you didn't come in for that. I said, so what is it for? It was for the Star Wars series. Can you imagine the line at conventions if I was in both franchises?
You've got another chance. There's more movies.
There's more, yeah, but I won't be, but that would have been kind of cool to be, it's got, what is it, Star Wars Rebels, I think it's called, the new animated series, and Greg's in charge of that. But I'm sure something will come up for me along the line, but that would have been like a recurring or a regular part. Did I answer your question anywhere in there?
You could have kept talking.
The transition.
I would have just stood there.
The great thing about voice acting is you can show up in your pajamas looking like something the cat dragged in and it doesn't matter. But for me, I find it actually quite difficult to do voice acting because it's not just the dialogue, you have to do sound effects too.
Yep.
So, impact grunt. Ooh! I get embarrassed. I do, doing those noises in front of other people. So it's not my forte, I will say that. But I've been lucky enough to be involved in shows that have been popular. Not through any of my talent at all, I have to say. Because those voice actors are amazing. I mean, we would be doing Gargoyles and there'd be one line of a character and Jamie would say, need old Scottish guy, talks like a dog. 3 hands would go up. And I'm like, really? You have that in your repertoire? You know, I have accents. I do accents, but I don't do voices. So there's a big difference. And I really, really admire those people. They're very, very talented.
Keith David is pretty good, too.
Keith David is awesome, but he pretty much does Keith David. He pretty much does Keith David. But then, why would you change your voice if it sounded like that?
We've only got time for a couple more questions because they have to turn the room, so we'll
What do you mean, turn the room?
I think there's another panel coming up.
And who is it?
I don't know.
Oh, is it? You can tell them how nice I was about them. Because they've heard through the rumour mill. That Marina is real. So you can tell them how nice I was about them, okay?
I will say one last thing, I do love you.
I knew you did. Hello, my love.
Hello. I was also going to ask you about Gargoyles. How was the dynamic different? You got to work with Jonathan Frakes again, but it was voice acting?
Right.
So...
Well, Jonathan, I had to put him straight, because he would come to conventions and do interviews, and he would say, I'm doing this show called Gargoyles, and Marina's playing Demona, and she's my sidekick. And I'd be like, really? What is the show called? It's called Gargoyles. What is Demona? She's a gargoyle. What is Xanatos? A person. It's not called people, it's called gargoyles. You are my sidekick, Pascal. But we ended up with virtually the whole cast at some point. We make fun of Dorney because we call him Big Old Dumb Old Worf, right? But then he played Big Old Dumb Old Coldstone on Gargoyles as well. He just has cornered the Big Old Dumb Old market. Did that answer your question? Kind of? I know I go off tangent, but I think there's an answer in there somewhere.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hey, you talk. You didn't have to move the mic down there. You lift it back up again.
You can lift it back.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, so if you could play any character, like what would your ideal character be to play?
Okay, okay, all right. So as I said at the beginning, I thought I was going to be the next great classical actress, right? And to be honest, all the parts that are on my bucket list, the parts to play, are in the theatre. They are. Because the ones in the movies haven't been written yet. So I don't know, there might be a great part out there for me in a movie, but I haven't seen it yet. So the parts that I am drawn to are the great theatrical roles, and the one that I have to play one day is Medea. Because I want to kill my children. No, I don't really. I love kids. I just don't want any of my own, and I love to give them back at the end of the day. But I am the world's best aunt. I am. I'm the world's best aunt. I do, and babies love me. They do. I just don't like them when they start talking back. So, I would love to play Medea, and that's like my ideal role. And there are certain parts in Chekhov and Ibsen and some Shakespeare that I would still like to do. So, that's where my heart kind of still is, in a way, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. Your last, pressure. Pressure, good question, otherwise people will be really disappointed. But no pressure, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd just like to say I thought it was awesome that you went from being Deanna Troi, all soft-spoken and Captain He's Hiding Something, to badass gargoyle chick. And, yeah.
Well, to be honest, Deanna's the only nice person I've ever played. I know you're shocked. But really, I've always been the bad girl, up until her.
So, there were a few episodes of Voyager that you were guest starring on, and even the last episode of Enterprise, sadly, that you guest starred on.
Was that sadly that it was the last episode, or sadly that I guest starred on it?
Sadly that it was the last episode.
Oh, you were the person watching it. Okay. Was that my outside voice? It was my outside voice, wasn't it? Okay.
But,
oh, come on, it stank. It was terrible. Oh, come on. Hang on. Who liked Enterprise? Oh, bless your heart. See, the devoted fans watch anything with Star Trek in the time. Bless your hearts. God bless you. And Scott Bakula. Oh, that was the other thing, right? Nicest man. Nice man. Lovely man. Never stops working. But lovely, lovely man. Yeah. Go ahead.
When you were guest starring on those two shows, what were the casts of those shows like with each other? And did you and any of the others guest starring with you try to mix that up a bit?
Okay, well, bear in mind that I was never on DS9. I wouldn't have gone on DS9, even if they'd asked me. Because for 2 years, we overlapped. And they were literally shooting across the street from us, like at 10 yards away. And I would leave my set that was like kindergarten at recess, and I would walk onto the DS9 set, and I'd be like, did someone die? I mean, really? And then in about 10 minutes, because they had our crew, they inherited our crew, like, the technical crew. So as soon as they'd be like, oh, Marina's here, yeah, got louder and louder and louder. And the director said, who just walked on this set? Oh, you. So I wouldn't have done that. And then they did ask me to be on Voyager before I actually appeared on it, and I kept saying no. And then they said, would you come on Voyager with Dwight if you were working with Dwight Schultz? And that was it for me, because I love Dwight. I adore Dwight. We just don't talk politics. I adore Dwight. And I loved the episodes of TNG that he did, and so I really enjoyed working with him. So I said, yes, I will do it. And I actually only got to work on Voyager with him and Bob Picardo. I didn't get to meet anybody else, really. I mean, I met them, but I didn't get to work with them, and I know them. But again, that was a tense set.
Yeah.
It's very tense over there, for various reasons, which we won't go into. You all know. Anyway, you all know the gossip. And then on Enterprise, they said, we want you to be on the final episode of Enterprise with Johnny. Because my immediate thing was no. And then they went, Johnny's going to do it. I went, okay, I'll do it because Johnny's doing it. They treated us fine, and it wasn't until I read the press before the episode came out that I realised they really weren't happy that we were there. Because it was their very last episode, and yet it was more of a TNG episode than it was an Enterprise episode, because we were real and they were holograms, right?
That's what I meant by sadly.
Right.
It was such a kind of a cop-out.
It was, you know, but they wanted to get big numbers or whatever, and having two people from TNG, because, you know, as much as y'all may like the other shows, TNG was the flagship show, right? I know that the original cast brought you all to the franchise, and I don't call them classic Trek, because what would that make TNG? Diet Trek? So they brought all the fans, and in syndication, that was where fandom grew. But when they were actually on TV, they were cancelled after 3 years. We were the only show of all the Star Trek, shows that if we were rated, and we weren't rated because we were a syndicated show, but if we had been rated in the Nielsen ratings, we would have been in the top 20 every week. And no other show ever got as big of an audience as our show. So I don't care which show you like the best, TNG was the best one. Okay? Sit down, I haven't finished. Honestly, they're like rats out of an aqueduct, honestly. Anyway, I just want to say, before I go, the biggest blessing in my life has been Star Trek, and I make no bones about it. I was working in the mall for minimum wage when I got cast on Star Trek. $5 an hour, by the way, back then. And I was folding sweaters and selling clothes to, women with too much money in Beverly Hills. They were spending more money on a sweater than I earned in a month, that kind of thing. So that was where I was working when I got cast. And my life changed in a day. And everything I have, including my husband, because he's American, everything I have, I owe to Star Trek. My clothes, where I live, my car, my dogs, everything is because of you guys. Because you guys turned on your TV sets for 7 years and went and paid money to see our movies. Not enough for Nemesis, obviously, because we got cancelled. So that's your fault. But everything I have, I owe to you. I think sometimes people in showbiz forget that it's the public that gives them all their blessings. I will never forget it. God bless you all. God bless you.